Arsenal. The Gunners went unbeaten in 2003-2004. The Invincibles. Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Robert Pires. Untouchable. But fast forward 7 years, and Arsenal showed up at Old Trafford with a squad held together by duct tape. Fabregas had just left for Barcelona. Nasri gone to City. A 19-year-old Carl Jenkinson making his second Premier League start. And United smelled blood. Rooney got a hat-trick. Ashley Young bagged 2. By the final whistle, it was 8-2. Arsenal's heaviest league defeat since 1927. Van Persie missed a penalty at 1-0 that might have changed everything. Instead, it got worse and worse. Wenger called it humiliating and personally apologized to the away fans. The club panic-bought Arteta, Mertesacker and Benayoun in the days that followed. But nothing could erase that scoreline, 8-2, at Old Trafford, against their biggest rivals. It still hurts. Bournemouth. August 27, 2022, Anfield. The Cherries had just come up from the Championship and were finding their feet. Then Liverpool happened. 9 goals, none scored. Joint heaviest defeat in Premier League history. Luis Diaz scored twice, Harvey Elliott, Trent, Van Dijk, Firmino with 2, Fabio Carvalho, and an own goal. 9-0. Manager Scott Parker sacked 3 days later. For a club that was in League Two just over a decade earlier, playing non-league as recently as 2008, the Premier League had been a dream. But that afternoon at Anfield was a nightmare they won't forget. A reminder that the top flight can be brutal, that it doesn't care how good your story is. Liverpool. April 27, 2014. Anfield vs Chelsea. Brendan Rodgers' Reds were flying. Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling. 11 straight wins. Top of the table with 3 games left. First title since 1990, right there for the taking. And then Steven Gerrard received a pass near the halfway line. His touch was heavy. He tried to recover and slipped. The ball rolled free to Demba Ba, who ran through and scored. Chelsea won 2-0. Liverpool then drew 3-3 with Crystal Palace after leading 3-0. City won the title. 2 weeks earlier, after beating City 3-2, Gerrard had gathered his teammates. This does not slip now. He cried all the way home after the Chelsea game. He still can't watch it back. Brentford. The Bees' nightmare lasted years. Before their 2021 promotion finally ended it, Brentford were the best team to never go up. In 2019-20, they needed 1 point from their final 2 games for automatic promotion. Lost both, then lost in the playoff semi-finals. The following year they made the playoff final. Lost to Fulham. A club that had been in the Championship since 2014 kept finding new ways to fall short. New ways to break hearts. When they finally beat Swansea in the 2021 playoff final, it wasn't just celebration. It was relief. Years and years of relief. All those near misses. All those collapses finally over. Brentford have been a Premier League club ever since. But they'll never forget how hard it was to get there.
Manchester United, May 13, 2012. Final day of the season. The Red Devils won 1-0 at Sunderland. Ferguson's players were on the pitch trying to contain the celebration. 20th league title. Job done, except it wasn't. At the Etihad, City were losing 2-1 to QPR going into injury time. Then Dzeko made it 2-2 in the 92nd minute. Then Sergio Aguero picked up the ball in the 94th minute, drove into the box, and scored. City 3, QPR 2. Champions on goal difference. Martin Tyler's commentary became immortal. At Sunderland, Ferguson's face dropped. Phil Jones put his head in his hands. The trophy presentations were quietly put away. United fans had to watch their neighbours win their first league title in 44 years, snatched in the final seconds. Brighton, May 3, 1997. Hereford, final day of the season.
Brighton needed a point to stay in the Football League. Lose and they were gone. Not just relegated, finished. The club had no stadium. The Goldstone ground had been sold from under them by owners who saw the land as a payday. Fans had protested all season. Pitch invasions, broken crossbars, a 2-point deduction. And now this. A 17-year-old defender named Kerry Mayo put the ball into his own net after 21 minutes. Brighton were losing, heading for non-league football 70 miles from home in Gillingham. Then Robbie Reinelt equalised in the 62nd minute. 1-1. They held on, survived. Hereford went down instead and eventually ceased to exist entirely. Brighton clawed their way back. Premier League football, a new stadium, but those 62 minutes at Edgar Street, the closest a club has ever come to dying on a football pitch. Chelsea. Moscow, May 21, 2008. Champions League final against Manchester United. Rain hammering down. Penalties. Ronaldo missed for United and suddenly the Blues were in control. John Terry stepped up with the chance to win it. One kick. Chelsea's first ever Champions League. His name in history forever. And then his standing foot slipped. The ball hit the post. Terry collapsed. Chelsea lost in sudden death when Anelka's penalty was saved. Here's the thing though. Terry wasn't supposed to take that fifth penalty. It was meant for Kalou. Makelele revealed years later that Terry changed the order at the last minute. Wanted to be the hero. Instead, he became the villain of the biggest night in Chelsea's history. He still can't talk about it without emotion. Moscow haunts him. Burnley. Up, down, up, down. The Clarets know pain as a pattern, not a moment. They got promoted in 2023 under Vincent Kompany, playing beautiful football. Then reality hit. Premier League defenders don't let you pass it out from the back the way Championship defenders do. Burnley went straight back down. 24 points, 19th place. Kompany left for Bayern Munich. The club that had spent 7 consecutive seasons in the Premier League from 2016 to 2023 couldn't survive. All that progress under Sean Dyche. All those years of punching above their weight. Gone in 9 months. They bounced back immediately, won the championship. But the collapse under Kompany stings. Proof that style points don't keep you up. Tottenham Hotspur, May 2nd, 2016. The Battle of the Bridge. Spurs needed to beat Chelsea to keep their title hopes alive against Leicester. They led 2-0 at half-time. Kane and Son cruising. Then Chelsea came back. Cahill, Hazard, 2-2. Leicester were champions. But the scoreline wasn't the story. Spurs completely lost their heads. 9 yellow cards. Dembele gouged Diego Costa's eye. 6-game ban. Fighting in the tunnel. Pure chaos. They finished the season by getting battered 5-1 at already relegated Newcastle. Tottenham ended up third in a 2-horse race. Behind Arsenal. Again. Haven't won the league since 1961. Lost a Champions League final. The Battle of the Bridge is everything Tottenham are. Promise. Collapse. Heartbreak.
Fulham. 2018-2019 was supposed to be the Cottagers' big Premier League return. They spent over 100 million on new players. Jean-Michel Seri, Andre Schürrle, Alfie Mawson. Big signings, huge wages, total disaster. 3 managers in 1 season. Jokanovic, Ranieri, Scott Parker. None of them could stop the collapse. 26 defeats, worst defense in the league, straight back down. All that money, all those players, all for nothing. It was supposed to be different. They'd won the playoffs, they'd built a squad, they'd spent more than most. And it all fell apart within months. The Craven Cottage faithful had to watch it happen in slow motion. £100 million. Gone.
Newcastle United, 1996. The Magpies were 12 points clear at the top of the Premier League in January. Les Ferdinand, David Ginola, Peter Beardsley, the most exciting team in the country. And they let it slip. United kept winning, Newcastle kept drawing. The gap disappeared. On April 29th, Kevin Keegan was interviewed live on Sky Sports. Ferguson had suggested other teams wouldn't try as hard against Newcastle. Keegan lost it. "I would love it if we beat them. Love it." The rant became a symbol, a manager cracking under pressure. Best team to never win the Premier League. Until March 2025, Wembley, Carabao Cup final. Dan Burn headed them in front. Isaac made it 2. Newcastle beat Liverpool 2-1. First major domestic trophy since 1955. 70 years of waiting, finally over. Wolves, founding members of the Football League. 3-time champions in the 1950s. By 1986, the Wanderers were in the 4th division, a founding club playing in the 4th tier. Their Premier League pain came in 2012, when they finished rock bottom with just 25 points. 2 years earlier, they'd finished 7th. Mick McCarthy watched it all fall apart. But that collapse might be nothing compared to what's happening now. In 2025-26, Wolves went 19 games without a win. The longest winless start in Premier League history, bottom of the table, on course to break Derby County's record for the worst ever top-flight season. They finally beat West Ham 3-0 on January 3, 2026. Their first league win in 252 days. 6 points from 20 games. Still 12 points from safety. The nightmare isn't over. It might just be beginning. Everton. The Toffees might be the most tortured fan base in English football. They've been in the top flight continuously since 1954, every single Premier League season since 1992, and for years they've been hanging on by their fingernails. The 2022 pitch invasion after surviving on the final day. The 2023 Bournemouth win that kept them up. The points deductions. 10 points docked in November 2023, reduced to 6 on appeal. Another 2 in 2024, first club ever hit twice. All while their city rivals Liverpool kept winning trophies. They finally moved to their new waterfront home in 2025. David Moyes returned for a second spell, maybe a new beginning. But the anxiety of those survival battles, that never truly fades. Nottingham Forest, back-to-back European Cup winners in 1979 and 1980. Forest got relegated from the Premier League in 1999 and didn't come back for 23 years. Their painful moment wasn't one game. It was a quarter-century of irrelevance, watching football transform into a global phenomenon while stuck in the Championship, sometimes lower. When they finally returned in 2022, it felt more like relief than celebration. The Brian Clough era felt like ancient history, but 2024-25 changed everything. Nuno Espirito Santo took Forest to 7th place, Europa League football. First European campaign in nearly 30 years. The club is finally building something again. The pain isn't forgotten, but it's no longer the whole story. Manchester City, before the takeover, before the trophies, before Aguero. In 1996, the Citizens got relegated on the final day after losing at home to Liverpool. Manager Alan Ball celebrated on the pitch, thinking they'd survived on goal difference. They hadn't. City dropped out of the Premier League and eventually fell all the way to the 3rd tier. But that's ancient history now. 8 Premier League titles, a treble, the dominant force in English football. Whatever pain City fans remember has been buried under an avalanche of success.
Leeds United. Champions League semi-finalists in 2001, playing Scunthorpe by 2008. The Whites didn't just fall, they collapsed. Chairman Peter Ridsdale borrowed £60 million against future gate receipts, gambling everything on Champions League qualification. When they failed to qualify, the House of Cards came down. Rio Ferdinand sold, Woodgate gone, Keane, Bowyer, Dacour, Fowler, all shipped out to pay the debts. Relegated in 2004. Then, in May 2007, with debts over £35 million, Leeds entered administration. A 10-point deduction confirmed relegation to League One. First time in their history. The following season, they started on -15 points for breaching insolvency rules. Nearly expelled from the Football League entirely.
3 seasons in the third tier. The term "doing a Leeds" entered the football lexicon, a warning to every club about what happens when the dream turns into a nightmare. Crystal Palace. For 164 years, the Eagles waited. In 1990, they drew 3-3 with Manchester United in one of the greatest FA Cup finals ever played. Ian Wright scored twice while playing through a broken leg, lost the replay 1-0. In 2016, they led the final through Jason Puncheon. Jesse Lingard hit a screamer in extra time. Manchester United won 2-1. Always close, never there. Until May 2025. Wembley. FA Cup final against Manchester City. Eberechi Eze swept home in the first half. Dean Henderson saved a penalty. Palace held on, 1-0. First major trophy in 164 years. The pain is finally over. But those decades of waiting, those finals lost, Palace fans will never forget how long it took to get there. Sunderland. A slow-motion collapse that the whole world watched. In 2017, the Black Cats got relegated from the Premier League after a decade in the top flight. That should have been rock bottom. It wasn't. The following season, Netflix cameras rolled as the club fell again. Into League One, the third tier. A club with 6 top-flight titles, a stadium that holds nearly 49,000 people, playing against Scunthorpe and Walsall. The documentary showed dysfunction at every level. Bad signings, worse decisions. Players like Jack Rodwell earning £70,000 a week while refusing to take a pay cut. It took 4 years to escape League One. 4 years of misery broadcast to millions. The pain isn't gone, but it's finally in the past. Aston Villa. European Cup winners. Founding members of the Football League. The Villains went into 2015-16 expecting another battle near the bottom. What they got was total collapse. 3 wins, 17 points, 22 points from safety. One of the worst seasons in Premier League history. Bottom by November and never moved. Tim Sherwood sacked in October. Remy Gard came in and won 2 matches before he was gone too. The lowest point came in February when Liverpool put 6 past them without reply. Live on television, in front of millions. Villa spent 3 years in the Championship before finally coming back. But those 38 games in 2015-16 broke something in that football club. West Ham United. May 13th, 2006. FA Cup Final. Cardiff. The Hammers were leading Liverpool 3-2 in injury time. Seconds away from their first major trophy in 26 years. Then Steven Gerrard picked up a loose ball 35 yards out. One swing of his right foot into the bottom corner. 3-3. Extra time. Penalties. And Pepe Reina saved 3. Zamora, Konchesky, Ferdinand, all denied. Liverpool won. West Ham had been 2 goals up, then 3-2 up with minutes left, and lost it all to one moment of Gerrard brilliance. Alan Pardew's team had outplayed the European champions, done everything right, and walked away with nothing. It took another 17 years before West Ham finally lifted a trophy again, but the Gerrard final still haunts them. Every fan base has their moment. The slip, the miss, the collapse. These are the moments that keep fans awake at night. The what-ifs that never fade. In football, glory comes and goes, but pain lasts forever.